So when I started with the association a few years ago, I wanted to learn a bit why our soil and water conservation district directors come to their position. They are elected, they are appointed, they are unpaid, they truly want to give back to the conservation community. And I remember a vivid conversation I had with John Peterson, one of our district directors, who painted a picture for me of these three items at the top. He remembered being a young child in Benson, Minnesota. He remembered the many times that his mom had to sweep during the day, during the dirty 30s, during the Dust Bowl. He remembered the dust that he learned that was just going to be caked on his bed and his table, and he realized he had to adjust. And he said, we shouldn't have to be able to do that. We shouldn't have to adjust. I can make a difference in this. He said, I shouldn't have had to wear that handkerchief across my face. And now he's a director in Northern Virginia District, an entirely different location, but there's still conservation issues. So you can imagine the emotion I might have had when a friend of mine from Phoenix sent me the bottom two pictures last year, where we're still having some of the same conversations. We're still having some of the same issues. And I'm not saying we're not making progress, and I'm not saying we're not collaborating, because we are. That is the grassroots effort of soil and water conservation districts, if you know anything about our work. We collaborate on a daily basis with urban areas to do improvement. We work with educators. We work with producers. This producer didn't know who came to his farm necessarily. It was 4 different organizations collaborating to make this happen, to improve soil health and water quality. He just knew there was a team of folks that wanted to work with him to collaborate to make it happen. So I'm not saying we don't have progress, but I'm saying that picture and some of those images made us rethink a little bit of the things we were doing at the association. So collaboration is ingrained in districts, and while I could stand up here and talk to you for hours about who districts are and what we do, there's 47 of them across the state. They're each political subdivisions of state government, they're their own entity. They're each unique, but they all have overlapping missions, and they all need to work together. There's a common goal between so many of us. And they do it under the auspices of the association a bit, and that's kind of where my role with the association comes in. I help, really we're the catalyst, is what we want to be for collaboration among our districts and our partners. So what I want you to remember from this slide is that we are grassroots, that we are embedded in our community. They are community members who simply want to give back. But that all kind of made us step back about a year ago and rethink, how are we collaborating? Are we collaborating? What can we do different so that any progress we're making isn't just a small step, but the biggest step we can be making? So what I have on the screen here is a lot of words, but what I want you to take away from it is collaborate, coordinate, and cooperate. This is the MOU that soil and water conservation districts have with the US Secretary of Agriculture. These words are embedded in what we're supposed to do with our partners. It's in the Code of Virginia that districts are going to be a key partner with DEQ, DCR. The words are there. Do you know what they mean? Do we ever hold ourselves accountable? Do we ever assess what that means for our organization? They sound good on paper, but we all map it differently. So I could stand here and talk to you about what the literature says. What I really want you to do right now, though, is map it. In terms of collaboration for your organization, environmental collaboration, what does it mean to you? And you all probably mapped in different directions, but what I'm telling you to do is step back and define it for your organization. Because what we did at the association is we realized our partners weren't even on the same page. Collaborating to them was not necessarily the same thing collaborating meant to the association. So for us, it was collaboration was about co-labor, joint effort, and ownership. And that was part of the literature definitions that the association got behind. Why do we collaborate? There are so many reasons you can read on the screen. So many of them you're going to tell me are positive. I want you to also make sure you walk away recognizing the cost of collaboration and what it means to your organization. This looks scholarly. It's not. It's simplistic, but I want you to think this through in terms of collaboration when we work with our partners happens on a scale. It's a theory scale, and the low-level collaboration being communication. It's limited or no formal agreements. It's you're remaining autonomous, you're communicating with each other. As you move up the scale, you get towards integration. You're in a formal agreement, you're accountable to the partnership. Where does your organization want to be along this scale? And think about it in terms of a 1 to 5 scale. And what our organization did is use the Wilder Collaboration Factors Inventory. It's a free assessment tool. Google it. It'll allow your members to do it anonymously, so you don't know who said what, but you get some data that's very valuable to your organization. And it tells you some questions along these scale. It's 40 questions that measures 20 subfactors and 6 independent variables. We'll use the first question as an example. Agencies in our community have a history of working together. I told you about that collaboration theory scale. If your member says strongly disagree, they're probably operating at the communication level. But if they move to strongly agree, they're most likely thinking your organization, districts for me, is mostly at the integration level almost. So if you keep moving this, it gives you some statistics. For us, these are the 6 variables that the inventory tells you are successful collaboratives. These are the things you need to be focused on, and that's what those questions measure. It's pretty clear, just because of the red, which one stands out for the association. If it fell above a 4, the collaborative inventory tells you you're doing it well, keep on the right track. If it's between the 3 and the 4, it tells you, it's not going to tell you how to fix it, but it's going to tell you maybe it's something you need to look at. And if it's below a 3, it means rethink it. For us, the resources variable came out of, let's step back and think how we're going to rethink this component. And when you drill down into some of the data, the first 2 here actually are measuring resource variable. You can tell it's not skilled leadership that my members and our partners thought we were lacking. It's actually fund, staff, materials, and time. So our organization stepped back and thought, how do we handle this differently? And we worked with DCR and we worked with some of our partners to completely adjust how we do our legislative ask. We justify our numbers differently. We're changing ways to get to this variable. And this inventory makes you think through some of that. So remember, the theory itself is a 1 to 5 scale. This told us that our organization was operating about at a 3.5. But in reality, it also, after explaining to our members, we needed to know where we wanted to be because there's a tipping point, possibly. Our organization wanted to be at 4. They didn't want to hit the integration level. If you know anything I told you earlier about soil and water conservation districts, we're grassroots. We're embedded in the community. These are unpaid directors who want to give back to their backyard, essentially. For us, it is built on trust with our community. Integration would get us too close to being like government agencies. So for us, coalition is the optimal point of collaboration. So I left a few sheets of paper on your desk. Everybody has a sheet of paper. And just stick with me for a minute. I know it's a little hokey, but it's also good propaganda in case you want to know what soil and water districts are left over from the state fair that was canceled. But get one of those sheets of paper and fold it into the best paper airplane in the world. We all work for the same aeronautics company, and I want you to take about 30 seconds, maybe a minute, depending on what Kelly tells me in the back, and fold the best paper airplane you can in the world. And if you've been through VNRLI, I'm not looking for you to ball it up and throw it. Just give it a second. So you can test them after the presentation. Just for time purposes, I see a lot of you have completed your paper airplane. It's simplistic. And what our earlier speaker told me is she wanted to make your subconscious competencies more conscious. I told you we all worked for the same aeronautics company, and your task was to build the best paper airplane in the world. I've done this with a lot of groups, and I'm not expecting to get a lot of feedback in the 30 seconds to a minute that I make you do it. But how many of you immediately got your sheet of paper and went to work? How many of you leaned over and talked to your neighbor and said, well, that's really cool with your wings. Do you think that'll make it fly better? None of you went to a different table to talk to each other. It is very easy to do what may be convenient, and that might be turning to the person next to you. It's much harder to break through our silos. And we say that often, to get up and move to the table next to you. You had a finite resource of paper in front of you. I would have been ecstatic if you said, we didn't have enough time, we did one, but we didn't want to ruin all 30 sheets of paper with just, so we're going to take our time. There's a benefit and a cost in terms of collaboration, so keep that in mind. In closing, so collaboration is a buzzword. Everybody uses it. Make sure you know what it means to your organization and your partners. And I love this quote at the bottom. The brilliant CEO, the politician, is not the role model for the future. It's going to be the person, the men and women who know how to gather allies, build teams, work together towards shared goals. That's collaboration, and you can do it well. With that, 3 takeaways, since Kelly's giving me time. Hold yourself accountable and your organization. Know what collaboration means. There are tools out there to do it easily. The Wild Artifactors Inventory can help you, and then use it to transform leadership.